Today we're going to look at solving quadratics one more way here. This first problem on your note sheet says, competitors in the 10-meter platform diving competition jump upward and outward before diving in the pool. The height of the diver in meters above the pool after t seconds can be approximated with the following equation. How many seconds did it take the diver to hit the pool? All right, so we've looked at some ways to solve these types. One way we could look at would be to do factoring. Could we or can we factor or solve this way by factoring? Well, if you look at the numbers over here, we do have a number in front, so we'd have to multiply it with this one. And if you multiply those together, you get negative 49. So we'd have to figure out something that multiplies to negative 49 and adds to 3. Well, the numbers that would multiply to 49, we could have 49 and 1. That doesn't give us 3. 7 times 7 would also do it, but again, won't equal 3. So factoring does not work. No, we cannot solve by factoring. Another way we've looked at doing these so far would be graphing. Could we graph this one and solve it? Well, we could probably approximate it, so let's look and see what we'd get that way. We've graphed these before, so if you go on your grapher and enter in this equation, as I've done here, and hit graph, we can see the graph of it. We have looked at how you could do this. It says how many seconds did it take for the diver to hit the pool? Pool would be a height of 0. So we're putting this equal to 0. So if we were to do this, we want to know when's the height going to be 0. We could find on our graph where is that going to equal 0. And we've talked about how to find zeros before. If you go to your Analyze Graph menu and select 0, we should be able to at least approximate this. We want to find a point to the left of where she's going to hit the pool. Find a point to the right of where she's going to, and it should be, looks like about 1.77 seconds. So can we approximate? Yes. Okay, so we could approximate using the graph. Now, what we're going to look at today is another way you could do this. Say you didn't have a graphing calculator. What if we didn't have the graphing calculator to help us out? Would it be impossible to do this? No. There is a way to do it, and it's called the quadratic formula. Hopefully you do remember this or have seen it before from previous classes. The quadratic formula is right here. It's the formula x equals the opposite of b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. When you're doing this, the part underneath the square root symbol, this b squared minus 4ac, we have a special name for that. It's called the discriminant. Discriminant tells you how many solutions you're going to get. Remember from previous note sheets, you can get 2 solutions, 1 solution, or no real solutions. Anytime you solve this part under the square root and you get a positive number or any number greater than 0, then you are going to get 2 solutions. Okay, so for example, maybe you put in your A, B, and C and you got ended up being square root of 50 as an example. You would get a graph that would cross through and hit the x-axis 2 times, so you get 2 solutions. If you do it and your discriminant, the part under the square root, happens to equal exactly 0, which could happen, then you are going to get 1 solution. Okay, so if it ever comes out to be that you get square root of 0, you're going to see it hit 1 time. Now let's say you're doing it and your b squared minus 4ac part under the square root happens to be less than 0. That's where you get square root of, say, a negative number, like square root of negative 20. You can't do square roots of negatives, then there's going to be no real solutions. However, you will get 2 imaginary solutions. So you won't get any real ones, but you could solve and use I in your problem and get two imaginary solutions. But in this case, the graph never hits the x-axis. All right, so let's go back to our problem. Let's see if we can get the same thing by doing quadratic formula here and apply it to this problem. So if we were going to do quadratic formula on this one, what you'd want to find first is what is your A, B, and C. A would be negative 4.9. B would be 3. C would be 10. Now we'd want to put this into quadratic formula and see what we get. So we'd have x equals the opposite of b, which is 3, plus or minus the square root. Here's our discriminant part. 3 squared minus 4. A is negative 4.9, and b is 10. All over 2a. Okay, simplifying. This first part is going to be negative 3. On bottom we have negative 9.8. If you multiply 2 times negative 4.9. The discriminant's probably where you want to use your calculator. So on our calculator here, let's figure out what our discriminant is. So if we type in 3 squared minus 4 times negative 4.9 times 10, we get the value 205. That's positive, meaning we should get two solutions for this one. So we got the square root of 205. All right. Well, we need to keep simplifying here to get down to our answer. Square root of 205, again, probably use your calculator here. Square root of 205 is about 14.32. Okay, we're getting closer. Now we get down to this part, we have to simplify. Now notice the whole thing here is being divided by negative 9.8. So you got this plus minus symbol. To get our solutions here, we have to kind of split our problem up into two things. Either x could equal negative 3 plus 14.32 divided by negative 9.8, or x could equal negative 3 minus 14.32 over negative 9.8. Because remember on our graph, there is going to be two places where it crosses through. So we want to solve both these out. So add up the top first. So and this one will be 11.32 divided by negative 9.8. And this other one, we get negative 17.32 over negative 9.8. Now use your calculator to do some division. If you divide this first one out, it is going to come out to be a negative number. And we can't have a negative time here, so this is not our solution. You can't have a negative time. If you divide the other one, though, it should give us a fairly similar answer to our last one. If we do negative 17.32 divided by negative 9.8, we get 1.77 seconds. Is that similar? Is that similar to the time we got before? Yes. That is the same approximation our calculator gave us. So you get the same answer doing it this way. You don't have to rely on a calculator to get it. That's how you do it using quadratic formula. All right, some things about quadratic formula. When you're doing quadratic formula, you can always use it to find the roots of anything. This is the one-stop equation. It doesn't matter what kind it is. If it doesn't work out with graphing or factoring, you always can use this quadratic formula to do it. Now, you want to probably use those other methods if possibly. Generally, if you can factor, do it. Factoring is a lot quicker, but if you can't do it, then come back to the quadratic formula. Some of you may have learned quadratic formula in the past with the song. Hopefully that maybe will help you remember it, but again, quadratic formula, opposite of b, plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac, all over. The whole thing needs to be over 2a. All right, let's try another one here. On number 1, we're going to solve this using quadratic formula. Now, before you find A, B, and C, make sure your quadratic is equal to 0. It always has to be equal to 0. In this case, we're not equal to 0 right now. We got to do a little solving first. Minus 28 from both sides. Get it equal to 0. So you got x squared minus 12x minus 28 equals 0. Okay. Now check before. Could we factor this one out to do it? This one you probably could factor and do it because I think there is numbers that would multiply on this one to negative 28 and also add to negative 12. And if you think about it, you'll come up with the fact that this could be negative 14 and 2. So I know this one says use quadratic formula, and we will do quadratic formula, but if this was just a problem that showed up, don't take all your time and waste it doing quadratic formula. This would be a lot quicker solving, going like this and factoring, and then solving like we've learned, put them both equal to 0, solve it out, and the answer comes out to be 14 and negative 2. Those are the two solutions. Now, because we are working with quadratic formula, I just want to show you that quadratic formula does work. If we're doing this with quadratic formula, look at our coefficients here, find our A, B, and C. So A would be 1, B would be negative 12, C would be negative 28, and put them in quadratic formula. So we get the opposite of B. Now make sure you do opposite here. This will come out to be positive later. Square root of B squared, so negative 12 squared, minus 4 times A times C. Oh, the whole thing over 2A. And it's important that the whole thing gets divided by 2A. All right, simplifying. Two of the parts are easy. This first part is going to be positive 12 like we talked about. The bottom's 2. Do your discriminant with your calculator. It's a lot easier doing it with your calculator. You'll make less mistakes. So anytime a negative is being squared, make sure you put in parentheses, negative 12 squared minus 4 times 1 times negative 28. And our discriminant comes out to be 256. Anytime it's positive, we should get two answers here. If you do square root of 256 now, we end up getting 16. So we got 12 plus or minus 16 over 2. Now you got to split it into two problems. You got to find what is 12 plus 16 divided by 2, and what is 12 minus 16 divided by 2. When you're solving these out, be careful. A lot of mistakes happen when people use calculators here. If you type in onto your calculator 12 plus 16, which is the top, divided by 2, you get 20. Is 20 one of our answers we got before? No. And the reason we get the wrong answer here is because we want to add that top first before you divide. If you enter it like this on your calculator, it's going to take 16 divided by 2 first and do order of operations, then add 12. So if you're going to enter it all as one step, you got to make sure you put parentheses around 12 plus 16 divided by 2, and you get the answer. It'd probably be just quicker to hit 12 plus 16, hit enter, and then hit divided by 2, and you get the same thing. But one of our answers should be 14 here. And the other one, if you do 12 minus 16, that's negative 4 divided by 2. The other one is negative 2. Same two answers we got over here. Quadratic formula works every time, no matter what the equation. All right, for tomorrow, I want you to see if you can try number 2 on the back here. See if you can solve this one with quadratic formula, and we'll check that tomorrow.